All right, good evening, everybody. This is the Upper Darby Township Planning Commission meeting for February 10th, 2025. Call the meeting to order. We have, everybody's here, so we have full quorum. I need a motion to approve our minutes from our January meeting.
Make a motion to approve minutes.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Minutes approved. We have no communications and bills, I believe, this month, right? Nothing, okay. And we can jump down to reviews. We'll go in order. 8520 Monroe Avenue, subdivision and land development plan.
Good evening. My name is Dennis O'Neill. I'm an engineer with Herbert McCumbie's office, and we're responsible for preparing the plan for 8520 Monroe Avenue. This is a 3-lot subdivision. The applicant proposes to build a duplex twin, which is 4 units on the 2 lots that you see 2 and 3. And there is an existing semi-detached residential dwelling which will remain on Lot 1. The applicant received a number of zoning variances in May of 2024 to allow for reduced lot width, reduced lot size, and to reduce the number of parking spaces. These came with some conditions that included that we comply with all landscaping and stormwater management requirements of the township, and that the rear parking spaces be constructed using pervious material. Plan currently proposes that. You will see a driveway. One of the comments in the letter talks about easements. It is proposed that the driveway on the left side of the picture would be used for Lot 3 to access the 3 parking spaces in the back. The driveway on the right side of the proposed dwellings between the proposed twins and the single-family detached would be used for access to both Lot 2 and Lot 3. So we have a number of common easements over top of these driveways. We also anticipate that in order to back out of a parking space and pull out onto the street rather than back out onto the street, you would have to cross the lot lines. So we have a number of cross easements as well to allow for that to happen. Site essentially drains from the street back into a subsurface infiltration basin. We are, as required, making the rear parking spaces out of pervious pavement, and it's collected and infiltrated in an infiltration basin, and our intention is to capture and rate control as well as volume control for all storms up to and including the 100-year storm. So there's no discharge except in that condition where the 100-year storm would overflow, and it would come up through the inlets and overflow in that condition. But the storm system is designed to handle all storms up to and including the 100-year storm. We have received the Upper Darby Township zoning review and Pannoni review for the subdivision. We submitted a plan based on final minor, given that we felt it met the conditions. There's a complication because of the easements, which doesn't allow it to be considered final minor. We're most likely going to ask for a waiver from that requirement so we can continue proceeding on the final minor subdivision requirement. And I can answer any questions that you may have from the letters that were presented.
So this is a 1/4 acre lot with the single family house on it. And we're going to subdivide it, proposing to subdivide it and squeeze a duplex, 2 more dwellings onto this.
4 more.
4 units.
4 units. It's a twin duplex.
And all the zoning board approved all the variances that were required?
Yes, so the use itself is allowed. So in the R-3, you can have a 2-family semi-attached dwelling. So originally they wanted to do an apartment for 4, But in the conversation with the zoning hearing board, realized it would make more sense and be more zoning compliant to do it as a two-family semi-attached duplex. So it's legal, the use is legal, and they just needed a couple of variances for the dimensions.
So you had mentioned that there was an exception made to the parking spots. So how many parking spots are there?
We are providing 3 for each lot. 3 for each lot. There's 2 units. There's 2 units on lot 2, 2 units on lot 3, and 1 unit on lot 1. And based on the zoning relief that the applicant was given to allow for 3 parking spaces.
And it's where four is the requirement. They were granted an exception to have one less, to have 3.
Is
Do-
that the letter?
Jeff, do you want us to go through our reviews?
Yeah, please.
All right, so do you have anything else? Or, all right, so we'll keep going. Yeah, I don't want to go over every comment here because we have a lot to do tonight. But, right, one of the things that we need to figure out with this application is one of the requirements that were stated by the zoning hearing board when this lot was, or when this use was granted, was that the rear parking spaces had to be composed of pervious materials. There seems to be a slight discrepancy in how wide the parking spaces are. So in my review, I noted that a couple of the parking spaces were less, right, than I think it was 9 feet in width. And that's because it looks like the pervious parking area is ending sooner than the actual parking space. So I think that would find it to be non-compliant, or it would have to be amended to be compliant. That would also have to be pervious if you wanted to include that as part of your parking space. Do you guys have any issues with that comment, or is it?
We don't. We were
Feasible.
trying to leave a pervious or impervious buffer around the edge to direct the water to the impervious area.
Okay.
But we can extend it all the way out to the edges. We might also offer to extend it further into the driving areas to give you the area that you're looking for of impervious. But because we'd like to have a little boundary around the outside so that you're not pushing the water down and off the edge of the property.
Yeah, and if they didn't make that comment, I think that would have made a lot of sense, but I also don't want to jeopardize the zoning status.
That's fine. We can extend that all the way to the edge.
Any questions from the board about that one, or Allison, any comments?
Question is that if we expand the porous pavement all the way to the edge, there is a proposed retaining wall there, is that going to affect the foundation of the wall?
I think what we're going to end up having to do is put a liner along the wall to direct that water into the stone basin underneath the porous pavement.
Yeah, that will work. Just make sure that a detail is provided in the
Yes.
plans.
And the only other comment that I really want to go over zoning wise, besides the lighting facilities, which either you can receive a zoning variance or provide us with a lighting plan, would be the fence is shown going all the way up to the front. I understand there's an existing fence there. Do you know if that is owned by this property or if it is on the other side of the property?
It is owned by this property
Okay.
and it does cross over, and our intention is to remove that fence.
Okay, so you'll make it compliant.
Yes.
Wanted to talk about the tree replacement waiver. I believe when we calculated it, that there's supposed to be 4 trees that are being replaced, and you're replacing 3 of them. And that we were stacking the landscaping, the streetscaping on top of the requirement to replace. So I think instead of two trees fee in lieu of, you're gonna have to bump that up to 3 trees for fee in lieu of.
And we're gonna prepare a landscape plan to submit with the resubmission.
Perfect. Do you know if that landscape plan will include the extra tree or will it include that as fee in
It'll
lieu of?
include the fee in lieu of. There just isn't room to squeeze another tree in that site.
Does the board have any questions about that? And then could you clarify about the access easement between lots 1, 2, and 3? There's no wall separating them. So would there be access if somebody from lot 3 needed to go out the driveway of lot 1? Is that something that you guys are planning to do?
It's not it's not how the easement is currently laid out.
Okay.
We have considered that to have maybe like a one way in, one way out type thing where you're coming in the center, and going out the side. But I need to take a look and see how that was. The middle driveway is wide enough to accommodate in and out traffic. The westerly or the left driveway is not.
Mhm.
So we would have to look at traffic pattern there to see how we would do that. But it's not intended to have cross traffic from 3 going on to 2 and 1.
Would somebody backing out of 3 have to back into 2's driveway?
They would, and that easement is extended across the
extended.
back of that lot to allow for that.
Okay. So that everyone can back out as needed.
Yeah, because 2 would have to back into 3, 1 would have to back into 2.
Right. To go
Right.
across, I don't know if you can see my mouse to the board, but to back out, they would have to cross over that line.
Yes, and that's the way the easements were laid out to allow for that movement, but not specifically to direct traffic through one lot into the other.
Right. And we did ask to see a separate site plan
Yes.
for this because this is very hard to read with everything on it. So a separate site plan, just showing the plan and the utility, or not the utilities, just the plan, the site work. And perhaps the easements. Allison, do you have anything else to add? Traffic, driveways?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay. As far as, right, bike parking probably isn't necessary because this is such a small residential build. Talked about the tree plantings. Yes, you're gonna label the site plan. That being said, we're recommending approval contingent on addressing staff comments. Allison, do you want to go over any points of your review in more detail?
Yes. So in terms of the bike parking, if bicycle racks are not being provided, a waiver would need to be requested. So a lot of our comments is based on, the prelim, minor and final review. So it's mostly a lot of plans presentation comments. Information that's missing because it's a minor plan that was prepared as opposed to a prelim, minor and major, final, and prelim, major prelim, final.
So we would, our consideration would be to ask for a waiver to go minor. Unless it's your preference that we ask for a waiver to go preliminary final in one step and then provide that information. And our preference is to go minor.
I think minor would be acceptable based off of minor would be our recommendation, just based off of how minimal the plan is.
That's included in staff comments, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I make the comment, I think it's W1 or S1. A waiver must be requested to review this
Okay.
plan as a minor subdivision land development. Because that's how we reviewed it as a minor. Pannoni's team reviewed it as preliminary final, which was
Would
bound to
come.
happen because we didn't have the clarification. So if they ask for this, then the reviews will stand as is, or mine will at least. And then if they ask for the other one, then they'll have to change it, change a lot of the plans.
Right. Okay.
Right, if it's minor, then section 700 of SADO will apply as opposed to section 600 and 800 for prelim final, major. So in terms of utilities, I believe you're missing a lateral. In one of, in uh, one of the plans.
We can take a look at that. It's possible there's a lot of laterals there.
Right, so otherwise, we didn't have too much to add in terms of SADO comments. In terms of stormwater comments, we did have quite a few comments, but mostly the overflow structure, the outlet structure for the stormwater basin. As you mentioned, once it reaches the 100-year capacity, then it will outflow out of the inlet. And the way that the grade is for the site, it would flow to the rear of the property. And there's no control with the water after it flows from out to from the rear of the property. Is there any way you could possibly look into connecting to the existing inlet that's out on Monroe?
Yes, we can look at that.
Okay,
And that's just an overflow. at the-
Correct.
At the top height of the basin.
right, correct.
Are there any questions from the board before we keep going? Or clarifications we can make?
Just wanted to clarify the parking situation. You said you had a variance for 3 parking, but that's for just lot 2 and 3?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, parking, so lot 1 or lot 1, the 2
Still
unit.
has the required 2, yeah.
Yeah, lot 1 is compliant with 2.
Okay, so
I
it's
have
8.
full size, so full sets of plans if you guys want.
Set as well.
I've got 2 copies.
We can share.
All right, Allison, if you want to continue, I just wanted to make sure that they don't have any questions.
Um, yeah. So,
We're planning on
We'll
doing
do public comment.
infiltration testing.
okay,
Would you want to witness those tests?
we don't necessarily need to, but we do require infiltration test results.
Yes.
You can provide that to us.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. In the stormwater drainage book in the back, there are conveyance calculations for everything from inlets to the basin and the roof drains. But we'll check and make sure that they're all in there. Right, and we've designed everything for the 100-year storm.
So you can see in this view where the extra parcel is, that was never developed.
That's the single-family dwelling to the right.
Yeah, so so the existing single family is a semi-detached. So this would be putting a semi-detached on the other side of it.
Okay, so that is a semi-detached, meaning it's a twin.
Yeah, it's already a twin.
Okay.
That's
All right.
generally the
So then
neighborhood.
there's a driveway, that driveway's for that
That driveway will be shared, right,
with the new,
with the new lot.
okay.
And then on the other side, right, and then you have the two duplex, and then there will be a driveway for that far, I don't know if it's right or left at this point, but against this fence here.
And then that's a single family dwelling on the other side.
Yes.
All right, that's my heartburn. I mean, you have single family homes and we're putting two duplexes in between. I think it's a bad idea.
I mean, I can go down the street. It's a, it's as I said in my review, it's kind of a mix of uses here. Right, we've got commercial, we've got
Wow,
A
what is
duplex.
that?
we've got a duplex here.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call it out of the ordinary for this. Here's another.
I don't disagree, but there were a lot of sins committed over the decades in Upper Darby, and this, I don't think we should continue that practice. Sorry, I'm gonna recommend that we don't. Is there any more you want to go over?
Oh, Allison Still.
I'm sorry,
We
go ahead.
still have some other comments. In terms of traffic, this project does not warrant a traffic impact study due to the low volume of it. In terms of sewer comments, we did get a sewer planning module mailer, and we did have some, administrative comments there. In general, we didn't see too many issues with this, other than cleaning up the plans.
Okay.
Do you guys have any more questions for the applicant or for us at this point, or do we want to go to public comment?
Just one quick question, just regarding the pervious pavement or this, and the whole parking in the back. Is there going to be some sort of, or if you know, like who's cleaning up that area? Pervious pavement sort of gets the dirtier it gets, the less capable.
So based on your stormwater management ordinance, we would be required to record an operations and maintenance agreement, which would put the onus on the property owners
property
to
owners.
maintain it, and there would probably be some kind of there's a cross easement for stormwater management, so there'd be some kind of control that both parties would have to sign on to have it done, but there is regular maintenance required for pervious pavement.
Yep, absolutely. Okay.
Anybody else, any questions? No? Public comment, anybody? Sure, please come on up.
No, and Steve, into the microphone.
Say it in here for him. I just want to know what type of pervious pavement was going to be used, and then also how exactly is it going to be maintained? Because from my understanding, pervious asphalt should be vacuumed, at least on an annual basis.
So it'll be pervious asphalt pavement, and vacuuming is the preferred means of maintenance, yes.
That'll be added into any type of operations and maintenance agreement.
Correct. That'll be in the operations and maintenance agreement we provide with the stormwater management.
Any other public comments? I need a motion to recommend approval, recommend council approval.
Just need a motion. You can recommend
I'm
approval,
go-
you can recommend changing it, you can recommending approving it as is with comments.
I-
It's technically your guys' review, right?
Okay.
It's your recommendation at the end that is going to council.
I'm recommending that it does not approve, does not advance with the duplexes.
So you'd be recommending revise and resubmittal?
Yes. Okay. I think a single family or, twins would be acceptable,
Okay.
to us. And again, we're just advisory, so keep that in mind. So the motion is not recommending approval based on the.
Essentially density?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so then you'll need a second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
I
All
might,
opposed?
might be a nay only in that, and I don't know, maybe I should have made this comment sooner. Given the, just given the sensitivities to the amount of housing available, the more we constrict housing, the more the housing prices continue to rise. And so supply and demand.
You got it.
Now, I don't want to shove one in where it might be detrimental, but historically, we've been afraid of density. We see a lot of cities right now allowing auxiliary buildings in the backyards and so on to try to allow for extra property development, to try to take some of the pressure off the cost of housing. So while, so that's, from looking at it, it does seem a bit tight, and so I understand some of the concerns here. I only hesitate a little bit because I want to be sensitive to the fact that housing has gotten so expensive in the past 4 or 5 years. So that was just, that's my comment. Thanks.
And so that's yes, 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 no.
No.
Michael? No?
No, no, as well. I have no issues with the plan. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Jeff, can we do it as a roll call?
We better do a
Just so
roll
it's
call.
clear for the minutes. I think that'll also help Courtney as she has to do the minutes.
Okay, so we'll do a roll call. So,
That'd be
Ms.
best.
Hayes? So,
Your motion.
The motion is
motion
to
was to
not advance it.
not advance it. Ms. Jordan? I approve.
I vote against the motion.
I vote against the motion.
So you guys will get a written, a signed letter, recommending revise and resubmittal.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have T. Kane Self-Storage, 50 South Oak Avenue, Land Development Plan. Good evening.
Good evening. Scott DeBell with KCI Technologies. We're the civil engineer for the proposed self-storage facility at 50 South Oak Avenue. The property is about 3 acres in size. No, that's fine. We can pull up the existing conditions plan. The site is an odd shaped. It has a short frontage on Oak Avenue. Yep, yeah, that's going north sort of to the top of the plan is Oak Ave and the frontage on Oak Ave. It also has access to Baltimore Ave through an existing access easement through the existing parking lot in the bottom left corner of the plan as well.
Thank you.
No, no problem. So it's kind of a flag-shaped lot. The pole sort of is existing open space. And then the more rectangular shaped portion has some wooded areas around the perimeter and the northern end and some open grass space in the middle. It generally slopes on your plan from left down to the right. And it backs up to residential uses on 3 of the sides and the Wawa, on a Wawa to the 4th side. The proposed use is a self-storage building. The building is proposed to be 3 stories. tall. It will total 124,000 square foot. But the stories will be staggered on top of each other. So it'll sort of run with the land. Each level was proposed to have an external exit directly to grade. So each floor will be just over 41,000 square feet as it's proposed. But the building footprint, looking down from the site plan, is 62,000 square feet. So some of the building will have stories on top of each other and some will not. There's proposed to be an access drive all the way around the building. It would be the left side of the building would be two ways with the main office on that side of the building. The other three sides would be one-way traffic around the building. There were previously approved a half dozen variances for the site, including the use, building coverage, number of parking spaces, number of loading spaces, fence height, and the buffer planting strip
Wait,
width.
Say them again. These were all zoning variances that
Sure,
you.
yes. Use,
For use, okay. What's it zoned at now?
It's zoned RC-1,
RC-1, residential commercial,
residential conservation.
residential conservation.
Yes. Let me make sure I'm saying that right.
yeah.
It's
yes.
our it's our low density zoning. Yeah. Yep, special residential conservation district.
This doesn't sound like it would fit in, like, go with that. They got the variance for that?
They were granted a variance from the zoning hearing board.
This. All right, I'm sorry.
No, that's quite
If you
right.
continue.
Building coverage,
Okay, how much?
47 was proposed, 20 was the maximum
20,
percent,
okay, and you're proposing
47.
47.
You have to remember, they're all the dimensions are going to be viewed through the lens of the RC, which is primarily for residential homes.
Number of parking spaces, which the requirement was one for every 150 square feet of floor area. And a variance was granted to allow 25 parking spaces.
And for clarification, the zoning code, if the use isn't in the parking counts, they'll just give it a blanket one per 150 square feet, which in a warehouse is enormous. It was like, what, 800 something parking spaces?
33 spaces.
Which obviously the zoning hearing board felt that was not necessary
Okay, got it.
for self-storage.
Number of loading spaces was also a variance. Requirement was one for every 10,000 square feet. There was a waiver for one, a variance for one. There's a variance for fence height to allow an 8-foot fence. The max height was in district was 6. And there was a variance for a reduction in the 10-foot wide buffer planting strip.
How much less than 10 feet was approved?
I knew you were gonna ask that.
I don't think there's any.
It's limited.
Anything else?
I don't, let's touch on the stormwater. It's proposed to be a basin in sort of the flagpole section of the lot. We had it originally submitted as a surface pond with retaining walls. However, we were going to work to make that an underground system, so there'll be grass. There'll be remain open space on top.
Before we continue, do you mind, Josh, pulling up this Google Street View again?
Sure. What street do you want it from?
I want to see.
Or do you want an aerial view?
Cambridge Circle. We'll do the aerial first and then
All
I
right.
want to see.
I think that, yeah, that might make more sense. Because street view, it's kind of hidden, but I can kind of go through it.
Can we ask questions while you're doing that? So currently on these 3 acres, it's just open space. There's nothing there.
Correct.
And then the facility would back into this residential area, this Cambridge Circle, there's homes.
There we go. So I can do a little bit of overview, kind of like I did in the existing conditions if you guys want, just to orient ourselves, right? So if we zoom out a little bit, here is, right, the Home Depot, shopping area, shopping center, right, Planet Fitness, Petco, Burger King, Wawa, right? This is the new Wawa that they just put in. This is currently the only access to the site is through here. It's not developed, so there technically isn't anything there. This is the Cambridge Circle homes. These are townhomes. And then around the boundary of the property are the Bishop Hill Apartments, which, right, are part of the greater Bishop Hill Apartments down here. The proposed access to the site, right, is through an existing easement. Going to be through Baltimore Pike, even though the frontage is technically on Oak Avenue, where Planet Fitness is. I can go back to the plan if you want, if that makes sense. I can also go to the frontage along South Oak Avenue if you want to see it from the street.
Is there a street view on Cambridge?
On Cambridge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see that.
So this is looking at over at what is going to be the stormwater area.
Okay.
Am I correct in saying that?
Correct.
Yeah. So this will be the stormwater area. You can't street view see that's not the button I wanted to hit. You can't actually see the
And these are single family. These aren't apartments.
So these are apartments. Cambridge Circle are townhomes.
Okay.
So, and I think it follows the correct zoning here. I think Cambridge Circle is R3, and I think the apartments are R4. Now I'm flipped around. North is the other way, but right. And then this would be the new entrance. And if I flip over to the plan, you'll kind of see that new entrance over here. Oh, never mind. Over here. So right here's Baltimore Pike, right? Think about the Wawa's right up here. See where my mouse is? Right. Then this is the storage facility. The apartments are here along the L. And then the attached homes are here, the townhomes. And then that large grass space, L shape, is here, connecting onto Oak Avenue. Thank you.
Was the community at all informed of this? Were they queried at all? Was there any kind of focus group, anything for this community?
I believe so, but
Unfortunately,
there was zoning.
the process predates my involvement. My understanding is that there was some conversations with the surrounding properties as part of that zoning process.
I think there was some clean out too that was done. Does that sound right?
That I don't,
Removal of trash and debris and other
Yeah,
stuff
no.
that was stored there.
Do you have the zoning code handy?
Yeah.
Can you read the definition of residential conservation?
Sure. The intent in the RC-1 Special Residential Conservation District provides for the special needs of the environmentally sensitive areas of the township, encourage the conservation of areas where limitations exist for the development by reason of slope, unfavorable soil conditions.
Was the what?
Yeah, go a little slower there. I think it's kind of important, Josh.
To provide for the special needs of the environmentally sensitive areas of the township, encourage the conservation of areas where limitations exist for the development by reasons of slope, unfavorable soil conditions, or topography, and facilitate the control of soil erosion, surface water flooding. So it's essentially supposed to be, right, protecting environmentally conserved areas.
How does this fit in then? How is this protecting the environment? I'm sorry, is it,
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know how these variances are getting through, to be honest with
But,
you.
Yeah.
well, given that it's gotten a variance, that would imply that it doesn't meet those needs. And the zoning board agreed and gave them the variance that it doesn't meet those, that it doesn't do that. That's how they got the variance.
and the community was informed of this?
I mean,
That would be on the
The little
applicant to
white and
establish,
yellow.
but
The-
yes.
you know.
Whenever
It
anything
went through
goes,
the zoning hearing board.
yeah, it went through zoning hearing.
So it
Wow.
was publicly advertised, it was notified, and a hearing was held.
so that was the use variance.
Mhm.
Wow.
Okay.
We can
Do you want to go on? You want to continue with your?
I think I can answer questions. We can go through
let's go through the reviews.
comments.
Is that all right with the board?
Yeah.
All right. A couple of the zoning things that we had issue with, and I'm just going to put the plans back on the board here. Is with the added parking on the sides, one of the conditions was that, right, all drive aisles were to be 24 feet in width. And we felt that, right, with the
Yeah.
with the addition of these parking spaces along the walls, that we were losing that 24 feet in width of drive aisle.
Yeah.
And we didn't recall that being part of the zoning conversation.
It wasn't originally.
Okay.
Put it back the way it
Okay,
was.
because that would probably be an issue, just with the one condition that they asked for.
Nope, that makes sense.
Also, right, because this is technically an RC-1, any vehicle with more than 2 axles is not supposed to be parking in a residential district. So I'm not sure what the intent is for the loading space, if that will be something that's effective, or if we're not imagining anything over 2 axles. Sorry, anything bigger than a U-Haul.
Right. I mean, I think it could be a stipulation that, the intent would just be for the box trucks
Right.
to be there.
I think it would have to be, or, an additional variance would
Yep,
be needed.
that's fine.
Just because it is technically an underlying residential district. Glare from lights, in the lighting plan, it looked like the foot candles were seeping out past the barrier. That's of particular concern because it was over for the residential districts.
Yeah, we
So
can-
we'd want to see those foot candles end at 0.0 on the property boundaries.
Yep.
I know that there was a variance for the parking lot landscaping, or for the general buffer, but there technically wasn't for the parking lot landscaping buffer.
Okay.
And neither of the parking lots have a buffer. I believe it'd be a particular issue against the Bishop Hill Apartments, where there's supposed to be one. Loading areas are not supposed to be visible from the primary street. I know there's some topography with how Wawa sits, and I wasn't sure if this loading area here would be visible, or if the tops of trucks would be visible. So that was kind of a clarifying question. And then the last zoning question that we had was regarding any future signage. Because it's a residential district, you would be forced to do 16 square feet or less.
Okay.
And then anything off the property, perhaps on Baltimore Pike, would be considered a billboard and would likely need a variance.
Okay.
Any questions on the zoning aspects of it that we called out? And that's all listed under zoning comments in the planning commission review. Moving on to the Saldo comments. There was a lot of just kind of, um, plan details. Right, one of the things, right, the proposed municipal comprehensive plan, the proposed land use is missing. The future land use of this area calls for it to be vacant, which isn't really helpful because that doesn't show a lot of intention. So, right, something to think about as we go into the future comprehensive plan. Right, I think vacant is there just because it was what was on the existing land use. So it's not a whole lot of guidance from that section there. Let's see. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was we wanted to see a sidewalk added along Oak Avenue,
Okay.
as this is the area that goes into the right of way. There's already an additional other sidewalks being added on this plan, or on on the street, and we'd want to see that as part of the connection to the SEPTA train station and bus stations. So we'd ask for that to be added sidewalk wise. Right, we don't feel that bike parking would be necessary for this type of development, so a waiver for that would be most appropriate. S27, as you saw from the aerial imagery, right, there's a lot of woodland on there. We would want a calculation as well, where we have the tree survey plan, but we'd like to see a calculation telling us what the area of mature woodlands would be as compared. There's frankly a lot of landscaping comments.
Yep.
Right, you have to do replacement trees. Per the table, you gave us a table showing that there was, I believe you said 86 or 89 trees being removed. Those would have to be replaced at varying widths. It would ultimately be, as we calculated, 135. Allison, is there any other comments on that? And I think we have 4 or 5 provided.
Yeah. Is a fee in lieu of an option or appropriate, or?
If that's part of what you want to ask for the waiver, right,
Okay.
then they can make comment on it, and ultimately it would be approved by council.
Okay.
And then as far as, right, very steep slopes, we know that there's some steep slope areas in the section. And if you could tell us if this does constitute a steep slope area. For the shade trees that you did provide, we noticed that they were 2-inch caliber when 3 is required.
Okay.
And that you would be required to go to the shade tree for any street plantings.
Okay.
Right, there are no foundation plantings on the whole site, so those are the plantings that are supposed to run along the base of the building. Those are missing, I think, due to the way that's designed with the driveway.
Yeah.
They're missing because what? I'm sorry.
The way that it's designed with the driveway, it goes from the wall of the building to the driveway, and then we're pretty much at the property boundary. So there's no foundation plantings. Even I think on the parking areas, it goes right to the sidewalk, if I'm looking at that correctly. And then the last comment that I want to mention before we go to Allison's review is there's currently proposed to be an 8-foot chain link fence around the whole property. We found that fence to be rather unfriendly to residential.
It is.
So we asked that it would be replaced with a residential style fence, either wood or vinyl or something that is more aesthetically pleasing to the residents who are going to be on either side of this property. Ultimately, right, we recommended a revise and resubmit for this plan. Allison, if you want to go into, actually, let's go. Do you have any comments for us or any questions for us? Jeff?
I don't have any comments or questions for you.
Question, just on page 2, I want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. Under previously approved zoning,
Mhm.
it says to permit 25 parking spaces when 833
Right.
parking spaces are required. Is that a typo?
No. So whenever there is a zoning use that isn't pre-calculated in our parking code, right? So every use has a calculation it has to use. So like if you're a barber shop, you need one space per 250 square feet, right? If you're a restaurant, you need one per 300 or whatever that number is. For anything that's not in the code, right, like a self-storage, it's just not listed. We have kind of a catch-all comment that says it's going to be one space per 150 square feet. Now, with a self-storage, we're talking about a lot of square feet. So when you break that calculation down, it becomes like 800, which the zoning hearing board, right, upon variance requests said probably wasn't necessary and allotted 25, which would probably be about what is needed for car traffic. Yeah. Any other comments before we move on to engineering? Allison?
Regarding the existing trees, I mean, existing utilities. From the site plan, as you know, there's a lot of existing utilities that kind of just come into the site from the adjoining lot, and then we
Yeah.
don't know what happened, so,
Working with subsurface utility, get some more information.
okay. All right, for the underground basin, we have the pipe going into the basin, but then there's no pipe coming out of the basin for overflow.
Oh, okay, yep, yep.
Um, In terms of the overflow, the detail on the sheet does not appear to be correct.
Okay.
Your grade elevation for your outlet structure is below the 100-year,
Okay.
which basically means everything's going in
Yep.
and then coming right out, so there's no retention. Same thing for the lower storm with the orifice. It's below the 2-year storm, and you want to hold the 2-year, right?
Yep.
So infiltration testing is needed, so we can confirm the infiltration rates,
Yep,
and
good.
also the watering.
Yep.
That was most of our stormwater management comments. Other items were some cleanup items. With the elevation checks. We did also have a comment about the proposed sanitary sewer line that's coming on to the site from West Oak Avenue. There's a lot of, there's two 90-degree bends in there proposed. You might want to consider going on the opposite side of the basin so you avoid those bends.
Here's what that looks like right now. Just for the clarification of the board, right? The sewer line comes in off of Oak Avenue and then hits one 90-degree bend, then another 90-degree bend, and then goes along into the main site. And Allison, you're saying maybe
Come
put it
along.
over on the side
Right,
and then it
yeah,
can come in straight.
right. And then have only one bend to go into the building. We did review the traffic assessment report that was provided. So the only comment we had was, we did concur with the trip generation calculated, but we think that the report misstated the AM peak generation of 11 trips when it should be 22 trips.
Okay.
And that a traffic impact study is not required for this facility. It's not required because it's only 22 trips.
There's not a lot of traffic going in and out in a daily time.
It's not like the Wawa next door where you have constant traffic.
You know, and peak hours of rush and
So the other comment we had regards to traffic is that, depending on whether you're going to be encroached into the right-of-way on West Oak Avenue or Baltimore Pike, if no encroachment into the right-of-way is required or needed, then a highway occupancy permit is not needed. But depending on how your outflow structure is going to be connected to that inlet on West Oak, you may need to get a highway occupancy permit. And then the township would require a separate O&M agreement, or that be included with the stormwater O&M agreement for perpetual maintenance of that inlet.
This is a 24-hour facility? Access
Yes, I believe so.
and noise?
It's, everything should be inside the building.
Uh-huh,
It's indoor storage.
uh-huh.
So you mentioned it's going to be 3 stories. Now, was that also a variance issue from the zoning board, or is that, three seems?
Maximum height's 35 feet in that district. So I don't think, are you guys going above 35?
I believe we have 32 is listed.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So it would be compliant.
And you're entering from level 3 at the sort of top there, like entering to level 3?
Yeah, the top, on the left side of the site plan there, you would be entering into the top floor. So as the grade drops, the building would drop. And so there would be direct access on each floor, but there also will be an elevator inside the building as well.
So we did recommend a stop sign at the site entrance.
Yep.
And also a circulation plan to show that emergency vehicles can
Yep.
access the site comfortably. There was, I don't believe you guys submitted a sewer planning module.
Not yet, we'll do that, yep.
So that will need to be submitted and reviewed. Some additional details on the connections will be required. And just some other minor comments regarding the plan sheets. As a general comment, you're showing the emergency access off of the north there,
Yeah,
which is next, so you would be coming off of the cul-de-sac of Cambridge Circle to access the site. Have you confirmed the access with Cambridge Circle?
I will have to double check. There's access to the site there now. Like I said, it was shown on the zoning plan, but I'll have to double check on that.
And so an easement would be needed for that access. And that's all the comments I had.
Okay, thanks, Allison. Any comments from the public? Please come on up. All right, state your name, please.
Keith Lockhart, 427 Spruce Avenue.
Thank you.
Questions. I believe that the headwaters of the Muckinapattis are across Baltimore Pike, up Westbrook Park area, and come down through Bishop Field, then go piped underneath Baltimore Avenue,
Yes,
then under all the parking here.
okay.
So by the old Modell's, the fitness center, the putt-putt, et cetera. And don't,
I'm sorry, you're speaking about the main sewer line for the Muckinapatties Sewer
Yes.
Authority, correct?
right.
Okay, gotcha.
And they daylight almost directly behind this site?
The Muckinapatties Creek does,
Yes.
correct, okay. What do you, just bear with me.
My
for a second.
question is this?
You're speaking about the Muckinapatties Creek, not the Muckinapatties
Sewer line.
sewer line.
Yes,
What are you speaking about?
the creek.
The creek, all right.
Yes, I'm
thank you.
sorry.
Okay.
This is a very sensitive area.
Okay.
Anything taken into account because of that? stormwater's coming right off of this property, going right into the creek, as far as I can see.
It's actually going through, well, it would have to go through Bishop Hill Apartments first before it reaches the creek. But again, that goes back to our comment about existing utilities on the site. Not all utilities are completely shown on the plans at this point. And the applicant did say that they're doing some more utility surveying.
There's also the district, there's an over retention of the 2-year storm back to the 1-year storm level.
And then, Steve, I did some additional environmental comments on my review. Just, for clarity, right, the site's not in the 100-year floodplain. It is in the Darby Creek and Muckinapatee sewer shed. The Muckinapatee is about 328 feet southwest of the site. There are thin lines of steep slopes that separate the parcel from the neighboring parcels. There are no natural heritage areas and no wetlands on the property. The southern portion of the site is an area classified by the USDA as a soil area of prime farmland, and a smaller section is noted as farmland soil of statewide importance. So we did go through and do a check on all the environmental features.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, you need, make a motion.
Yeah, just maybe a couple, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
just a couple questions or just some feedback. There was mention of the forested area and the allowed removal of a certain percentage. It looks like we're over on.
I don't know if you are or not.
Yeah.
We want you to calculate.
No, we'll calculate with that. I guess I'm asking if, based on our tree survey that was done, the trees are not in, good condition, they're covered in vines. If, based on the fact that we're, developing a large portion of it, if a waiver would be considered of that if we're over. Okay.
Okay.
Right now, the recommendation is to revise and resubmit. So you, at this point, could motion to change it, to vote for it, to vote against it. This would be the point. You could also add anything that was left out. This would be that time.
I'd like to make it, oops. I'd like to make the motion to have the applicant revise the plan according to staff and engineering comments and resubmit.
Need a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, I'll get to that, so, okay,
So it would be,
all right, here's what I would suggest. Say yes to the motion, and then I'm gonna read it, I have a few things to say. All right, so. Okay,
so the
so,
motion is to revise and resubmit.
motion is to revise and resubmit. We have a
It's been
second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Any opposed?
Any opposed? No.
Lee,
Okay.
Lee, what was your vote? Right, so the motion right now is to revise and resubmit.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so
Yes to that. So
for
it's-
clarity.
That is unanimous. So-
Okay.
Okay, so I think for the applicant, what we can't, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody, I cannot get past that this lot is zoned residential conservation. Exactly. And these folks on Cambridge Circle bought homes, with the expectation that this is going to stay. That's about the closest thing to protected open space, without being protected open space. And putting a 3-story self-storage building just totally flies in the face. I can't, so even if you meet all the waivers, we're strictly advisory. Again, they don't have to follow, the council doesn't have to follow it, but that, I don't want to keep spending more and more money. It's going to be a very tough sell, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Next item is old business, the review draft of the 2024 end of year report.
All right. everyone should have a copy of the 2024 Planning Commission End of the Year report. Right, last time we had talked about some things that we kind of wanted to see in it. So this is our rough draft. If this is to your approval or close to your approval, right, I can still make some edits. But the idea is, right, per the PA Municipalities Planning Code, Section 207A, right, the commission should keep a full record and make a written report by March 1st of the year. So if this is approvable for you guys, we would, right, tighten this up and send this to the council for review and then presentation at the first council meeting in March, which I believe would be March 5th. And then I think it could be presented by maybe the chair, or if you guys want to come, this could kind of be a nice opportunity to kind of get to see council face to face and let everyone see what you guys have been working on.
March 5th, council meeting?
Yep,
Okay.
that's the idea. I mean, it has to be submitted by.
Yeah, I got it.
by
Okay,
But,
just want to see.
but we'll likely review it on the 5th.
Make sure I can go. Let's give me 1 second here.
Yep, except you'll be down there.
Okay, yes, I can make it. Let me put that on the calendar.
So if you guys want, I can just kind of dive into the report.
Yep.
Right. Obviously, we're very built out, so it's not huge, the numbers. But right in 2024, we received a total of 6 land development projects. Of those 6, 4 were presented to the commission for review. Right, as you remember, right, our last 2 in December opted to revise and resubmit before we asked them to. In total, the proposed commercial amount of square footage is 14,667 square feet, and the total proposed number of dwelling units is 29. Those are 2 categories that we picked out as something that we think we'd like to track year in and year out, so that we can really start pulling together some nice long-term data. If there's anything else that you guys think would be appropriate, just let us know. We can go back and look through and add that as well. Right, we had a variety of plans, including a commercial restaurant development, aka Starbucks, a warehouse, 2 mixed-use buildings, the golf course stream restoration, Cobbs Creek Golf Course, and of course the residential lot consolidation. In addition to that, right, we also reviewed the public improvement park project and wrote several letters of funding, and then helped revise and eventually review the smoke shop ordinance. So, I mean, first of all, hats off to you guys, because you had a really good year. And then we go into detail for each project below. Number 1, A&W Warehouse, goes into what the project is, when it was submitted, the timeline, and then for this one in particular, right, it was reviewed and approved, and they are currently under construction. Cobbs Creek Golf Course, similar situation, except it was approved by you guys and approved by council, and now we're working out those financial security agreements, the development agreements, operation and maintenance, and the recording of the plan. We expect that to happen in the next month or 2. So that should be soon, and then they can get on to construction. And then the Orchnik Residence Lot Consolidation, those were those 2 lots that we combined into 1. That's already done. It's recorded with the Recorder of Deeds, and a new deed was drawn up. So that project is completed. Starbucks at 1884 South State Road, right? Obviously, they opted to revise their plans based on internal things that they had going on. We expect to see it back in March, but their deadline for the project does expire on March 25th. So we'll need at least a decision from them soon if they are going to continue it or if it has to go to council for a decision. New Hope Property, LLC, this is 600 Garrett Road, the old Buick building, converting the bottom into commercial and the top into residential. Right, you guys tabled it and asked them to make some plan changes and updates, so they're working on that now, and we expect to see that soon. 223 South 69th Street, right, we drafted the review letter, but they opted to tighten up the plan before coming to you guys to present. So that should also be in soon. I know that we talked to their engineering team, and they're working to get on a nearby planning commission meeting. As far as zoning, right, we only did the smoke shop ordinance, but right, we as the commission were involved in drafting and coming up with the recommendations, and then also doing the formal Act 247 review and recommendation to council, which was ultimately approved and is now being put into practice. And then again, I go into detail those miscellaneous projects, including a review of the Drexel Gardens Park project, which was the proposed to redevelop it. I don't know if you remember Mike Galante went over that project. I know there's a lot of new people, but essentially, right, to update the stormwater, add trails, add landscaping, redo the paving, I think added a gate. Am I missing anything with the project, the stormwater project? Yeah, Drexel Gardens Park.
They are creating a new basin. They are, I think, reoriented the existing Little League ball field there. The basin trails, updating resurfacing the parking lot, and adding a half basketball court where the old court is.
And then, of course, we wrote 2 letters of recommendation, one to USDOT in pursuit of the Reconnecting Communities grant, which we unfortunately were not awarded this time, but we'll hopefully try again. And then the letter for the Urban Land Institute's Technical Assistance Panel, which we were awarded and will be happening in April. And that's pretty much everything that we have on this draft end-of-year report. Anything that you want added, any questions you have about the details of the projects, I'd be happy to answer.
Was there, what was the reason why we were turned down for the grant?
That I don't know offhand. But I think that grant specifically went to, I think it's like the Chester Pike Coalition for a project that they were doing along a couple of the southeastern Delco municipalities. So it was already awarded to a local Philly,
Did you write the
district.
request?
Did I write the grant? No, I didn't write the grant.
Okay.
What was that inferring?
I think the report looks good as it is.
Okay. So if you guys want to approve,
Sure.
then we'll submit it to council March 1st per the regulations and then present at the earliest council meeting.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the 2024 end-of-year report. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, motion carries. Next on the agenda was simply find it.
School district,
School district.
yeah.
Okay.
Right, so this is a letter that was received by the township and addressed to the Upper Darby Planning Commission from the Upper Darby School District attorneys, Fox Rothschild, saying that it's intent to possibly close the Charles Kelly Elementary School that's been operating out of 3400 Denison Avenue. They gave this notice out of an abundance of caution, although it's unclear whether it is required due to the particulars of the situation. I have heard an update since then that it looks like they are renewing for 1 more year. So I would expect to see something similar to this again in a year. But I don't have a lot of answers, but if you have a lot of questions, it's certainly something that I could try to get answered, or I could reach out. But if the intent is just to make you aware, then this will be that.
What's the planning commission? What's our involvement here for?
It's not clear.
Okay,
It might just be one of those things that they have to do
okay,
statutory wise. It doesn't seem like the attorneys are it seems like they're doing it out of an abundance of caution. But because, right,
Right.
it was sent to you and I thought that this would be the appropriate place and time to bring it.
They're probably just out of
Yeah.
courtesy too, just to know what's happening.
My understanding that they will keep the school another year, but the school board is going to make a decision April 2025 about what's going to happen after that.
Got it.
So double check that.
Okay.
I think this is more timely than recent announcements would.
Okay.
That's correct.
So this is a little bit more timely.
Understood.
All right. All right, there's nothing for us to do, just,
No, it's really just a notice of intent. We can always ask our solicitors too if there's anything that is needed from this, any actionable item, but I don't believe so.
all right, thank you. All right, I need a, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yep, sure,
Because
great.
we're under new business,
Yep.
right? So just like we did, or you started prior to me, the smoke shop,
Mhm.
comes up with these things. I mean, is there something that we can do in the township about repurposing vacant facilities? I mean, we sit in these meetings and we know there's a shopping centers, we know there's a lot of vacancies, and something like a storage unit. I mean, I know there's probably a property in Upper Darby Township that can become a storage unit and not take away open space. So is there something that we can put together, create incentives for developers to look at? I mean, I just think we need to start doing something instead of, starting from scratch and going to the little open space that we have. 89 trees to me is a lot of trees
Correct.
to take down.
It's-
So
I
I
do-
don't know if that's something we would do.
Well, I think as part of the comprehensive plan, this is something we should
So yeah,
probably
generally,
consider.
right, and I think a big part of the comprehensive plan should be, right, how do we incentivize redevelopment in existing structures versus, right, green space development? I think that's something that makes a lot of sense. And then, right, generally, we would want to update our zoning code based off of the recommendations of the comprehensive plan. So that's kind of the way that it's viewed in the planning world. Kind of step one would be to do the comprehensive plan, and then step two is, right, to develop the tools that are going to enable that. In that case, right, as it pertains to this commission, or the SALDO, right, the subdivision land development guide, which right now by default we just use the counties, and the county is meant for everybody. So they're also thinking about, right, developing, large multi-unit, single family homes in large, farmland. Not really applicable to us, right? So we would use, that would be a tool, right? Revising our SALDO to implement the comprehensive plan, and then also redoing our zoning code to implement the comprehensive plan, redoing our future land use map, right, to give it a little bit more goals and purpose than what's there now.
Anything else?
We actually
Fine.
have one
Yep.
thing. Could we add to the agenda a spot just if we, for either community and economic development announcements or planning and zoning announcements, or just a period where we can just kind of go through and give you guys any updates or anything that's going on in our department that might relate to you?
Sure.
That's something
great.
that we'd be interested in, and if so, I
Yes.
can add it to the next agenda.
Yep.
Okay.
Is something new happening to the Tower Theater?
Not that I know of.
I saw there was something in the paper, but not.
I think they're starting talks, negotiations with, what is it?
Let our resident Tower Theater
Yeah,
expert.
absolutely. It's a
Do
township.
you want the floor?
You've got the Director of Community and Economic Development
Well,
here,
good.
so. Rita LaRue, Upper Darby Township's Community and Economic Development. So I've been in touch with Live Nation, which is the owner of the Tower Theater, for the past 4 years. And before the Van Gogh exhibit was here, the township was in conversations with Live Nation to acquire the Tower Theater in some way. After COVID and after the Van Gogh exhibit left and all their leadership changed, they changed their minds. So they're not interested right now in the township acquiring the property, but we do keep in touch in an effort to talk about partnerships and to talk about what an important anchor that is for downtown Upper Darby and Upper Darby in general. Josh mentioned the Urban Land Institute Technical Assistance Panel coming in April, and that is called Destination Downtown Upper Darby. So that technical panel, along with stakeholders from across the township, will be talking about ways that we can maximize entertainment, restaurants, public spaces, and retail in the downtown Upper Darby area.
All right. So Live Nation, they still want to own this tower? They're not trying to sell it, or?
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
Based on my last conversation with them.
So that's, I think, positive.
Right.
Yeah, well,
How,
yeah.
The focus is up in May.
It's the Met and the Fillmore, and my guess is they're concerned about competition. They're trying to
Oh.
funnel their concerts into the Philadelphia proper.
Yeah, but, so they're going to kind of hold the Tower Theater hostage while they're deciding on whether it would cannibalize the other venues?
That's one way of putting it, but I mean, yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, it's private property. Redevelopment, though, is important to the township, and there are tools at our disposal. Not saying any of these necessarily apply to that property, but for instance, there's a vacant property registration program that licenses and inspections is running. There's a land bank program through the county that we can become involved in. When we're talking about incentivizing businesses to come here, we can do things like a new LERTA, which would provide tax incentives for development in Upper Darby. So there are things we can do.
All right. Thank you,
Thank
Rita.
you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Need a motion to adjourn?
Motion,
I will request that the board stay for 5 minutes, and Rita and Josh want to speak with you after the meeting.
motion to adjourn?